What is masculinity? To paraphrase that famous line, maybe we can't define it, but when we see it, we know it's there. And we can definitely see a concretization of what are the main traits of masculinity in the novel Sane by Jack Shaefer. From all the books I've read, it's the one book that mostly reminds me of a book written by Ayn Rand, of a book depicting heroes that could be Randian heroes, which, if you know me, is the type of heroes I mostly like. People who are clearly, you can clearly place them in the good or versus bad axis, and they're on the side of good. Of course, today there's a whole discussion about what is even masculinity, whether gender is binary or a spectrum. Whatever your take on that, let's agree on this thing. Historically, there have been some traits that have been related to this, let's say, way of carrying yourself that is called masculinity, these character traits that is related to masculinity. So this book and the character of Sane concretizes these traits, so the novel is a good case study in masculinity. I like many things in this novel, but one of the things I appreciate the most is that we get straight into action. Already from the first sentence, we are introduced to the hero. So here's the opening of the book. He rode into our valley in the summer of '89. So we're at the end of the 19th century, we're in the American West, and there is a homesteader, Joe Starrett, who has settled there with his wife, Mariam, and he has a young kid, little Bob. And Bob is the eyes through which we follow the plot. Bob is the narrator. So Bob sees from far away a stranger approaching. And this stranger has an aura. It's his clothes, the way he carries himself. The kid is not sure, but there is something in this stranger that has almost a physical impact on him. It's like an energy that you can sense it in the air. This might sound mystical, but I don't know about you. I've experienced it with some people that there's so much gravitas in their presence that they almost have like a physical impact on you, not in a sexual way, but it's like you feel it in your body when they are around. It's a magnetism. I don't know exactly how to describe it. I remember particularly a martial arts teacher I had who it was the same thing. When he was entering the room, you could sense it that he was here. And this is exactly the feeling that young Bob has while the stranger who is sane, while he's approaching. So the first thing he notices, because his first reaction is like this physical energy reaction, but then when he consciously starts processing the guy, he notices that the stranger has perceptiveness. So he's not just someone who looks masculine, but he's someone who the boy already understands is a man also of the mind. He's someone who tries to understand the world, and this is something that adds to this pride that he has, that he's like, I'm a man of this earth. Of course, Ayn Rand fans will remember that when we first are introduced to her biggest hero, John Galt, and slight spoiler here for Atlas Shrugged, if you haven't read it, maybe skip 30 seconds ahead. The first thing we learn about Galt when Dagny meets him is, again, his perceptiveness. Remember that line, quote, "The first thing she grasped about him was the intense perceptiveness of his eyes." So the hero is reality oriented. He sees and he judges. As he comes closer to the farm, because he just wants to get some water for himself and for the horse, the kid is already infatuated with him. The kid says, quote, "Already I was imagining myself in hat and belt boots like those." So the kid has an instinct, and the kid is already appreciating this man. Then the father comes out, Joe Starrett, and when the father and Shane meet each other, they stop for the second and they have they stare at each other and they measure each other. This is quite often it happens at least with men, and it's, some people say it's this kind of primal who would win in a physical confrontation. I think it's not as simple as that. It's just that who is this person that I am dealing with? And quickly they both realize that they have to do with a man of value. Shane realizes that Joe Starrett is a man of value. Joe realizes that Shane is a man of value. And then Shane also meets the wife. The wife is also infatuated with him. She does this kind of curtsy. Later she giggles, but not in a cheap way. She's not like a cheap flirt. It's just that Shane has this impact on anyone who meets him. So he stays for dinner because Joe Starrett insists, no, stay here, rest, stay for the night. And then at night, when Shane retires for sleep, the mother and the father have a dialogue. Like, what did you think about this guy? And the kid listens from the other room. And they try to put their finger on what exactly Shane is. And they say he's mysterious. So here's the dialogue. The mother says, "Yes, of course, mysterious. But more than that, dangerous." "He's dangerous, all right," father said it in a musing way. Then he chuckled. "But not to us, my dear." And then he said what seemed to me a curious thing. "In fact, I don't think you ever had a safer man in your house." So this is Shane. Dangerous, but also safe. And this is again a feeling you have when you're close to such men, that these men are capable of action, are capable of danger, but also you feel very safe besides them. Remember when we first meet Howard Rourke in The Fountainhead? He's at the house of Mrs. Keating, he's lodging there, and here's how he makes Mrs. Keating feel. Quote, "He always made her uncomfortable in the house with a vague feeling of apprehension, as if she were waiting to see him swing out suddenly and smash her coffee tables, her Chinese vases. He had never shown any inclination to do so. She kept expecting it without knowing why." End of quote. Of course, Miss Keating can't really understand Rourke, but she gets this energy that this is a man of immense energy. Of course, he has it under control. Later in the book, we see Rourke is actually capable of destruction, but also he's a very calm man, a man who never loses it. And what comes in mind is this famous Jordan Peterson line. The line that says that a harmless man is not a good man. A good man is a very, very dangerous man who has it under voluntary control. So a good man is a dangerous man. What does this mean? Because there's a wrong way to interpret that, or a bad way to interpret that hey, if you're not powerful, you are like bad or immoral. I think it's not that way. The way I interpret it is a good man can protect his values. He's capable of protecting his values. And this could be physical, but also this could be the moral integrity to stand up for what you believe. So next day, they wake up, they have breakfast together, there's a heavy rain, so Shane stays for a bit longer in the house. And now we see more things about Shane. The kid notices more things. For example, Shane is sitting with his back. He took the chair that his back is towards the wall so he can keep an eye on the door. He already sees himself as the protector of the family. Of course, that's not an open declaration. It's like, hey, I'm going to sit here because I want to protect you. No, it's just who he is. It's the role that comes natural to him. We talked about his perceptiveness. He's the first one to notice, because he's always alert, that someone is approaching. And by the way, why is he always alert? Because Shane has a past which is dark. We never find out exactly what, but we can sense that Shane has seen things. So there's this shady, sneezy salesman coming. So the father has ordered something from the town. Imagine like our Amazon delivery for the 19th century. And this salesman is like a grifter, you know. He tries to sell stuff more expensive than they actually are. Shane sits at the side, but again, he's relaxed, but at the same time, there's this tension and relaxation at the same time. He's relaxed, but ready to jump into action. And actually, at some point, very calmly, Shane tells the salesman, he kind of calls him out, like, hey, I've seen this product way cheaper in this other town. And the salesman is actually verbally attacking Shane, like, hey, he tells Starrett, this guy is no good, I've heard about him. And Shane, for a second, he's still calm, but he goes like one level up in alertness, and then the father intervenes and defends Shane. He says, you know what, this guy is actually my guest, and be careful how you talk about him. And Shane really appreciates that. And how does he show his appreciation? Not by saying, oh, thank you. He goes to the back of the yard, to the back of the ranch. He takes an axe and he goes and starts chopping the roots of an old stump tree. So there is this stump tree which the roots are so big and they're so intertwined that it's very difficult to uproot them. And it's the one part in the farm where it's not at the level that it should be. And father has already mentioned this to Shane, like, well, sorry about this. I'm not proud of it, but it's so difficult to uproot it. So without a single word, Shane takes an axe and goes and starts chopping the roots. And the father the whole family go there and say, no, it's okay, you don't have to. And then Shane says, quote, a man has to pay his debts. End of quote. A man has to pay his debts. So Shane is a grateful man. He's a man who has this sense of justice, but also he understands benevolence, that it's something important. When someone shows you benevolence, the good man actually returns it. And when the father sees Shane with the axe, he takes a second axe and together they attack the roots and they work for the whole day. And at the end, they manage to uproot this old stump, the roots of the old stump tree. And for them, it's like a triumph because it's also symbolic, right? Men versus nature. Men conquering nature, conquering and changing their environment to make it better. And this scene with the stump tree is crucial because it's the beginning, it's actually the seal of the friendship between Shane and the father. And this male bonding, this male friendship is a central theme in the book. I react to this scene positively because I have experienced this, that men bond, or maybe I don't know if it's only men, but at least for me, it works that I bond with my male friends when we do things together. Not so much like when we go for coffee, but more when we do things together. It's not a coincidence that you'd go to a dojo or to a sports club or whatever, particularly though in the dojo where it's like the physical stuff, you bond with someone in like 10% of the time where you'd bond with someone at the office or somewhere else. Or I remember specifically, I bonded with my brother-in-law when he and my sister, they moved house. I went there to help them. So me and my brother-in-law, we did most of the carrying heavy stuff like the washing machine, whatever. And at the end, of course, we didn't say anything to each other, but there was the feeling that our relationship was now one level up. That this was something that brought us closer. And again, we see this also in Ayn Rand novels. When does Francisco d'Ancona really bond with Hank Rearden? When there is this leak in the mills, this accident in the mills of Hank Rearden, and Francisco leaps into action. And this is when they do like physical stuff together, they bond. And this bonding means some shared values. Why is the friendship between Shane and Starrett so strong? Because they respond to the same things. They appreciate hard work. They appreciate a man's willing to change their environment for the better. So they share the same common, the same worldview. Now, the effect that Shane has on the family is that everyone wants to be their best self around him. So, for example, mother, while they're fighting against the roots of the tree, she makes a pie and then she gets carried away and the pie burns. She's like devastated. She's in tears. And then she makes another pie, which is the best pie she's ever made. And of course, here it's easy to notice that the sexism, the woman is in the kitchen. But I think the point is, and this is an old novel, but the point is, let's focus on the essential here, which is a man like Shane operates as a model. He's literally a leader in terms of other people want to be like him. And it's nothing that he says, it's just, again, it's the way he carries himself, the way he lives his life, hardworking, efficacious. The kids want to be like him, the father appreciates him, and the mother wants to be her best self around him. As it is mentioned at some point in the book, we've got to be the kind of people Shane thinks we are. This is a line that the family, they say to each other. We have to be the type of people that Shane thinks we are. So this is the effect of a man of the stature of Shane. So the rest of the book is, I won't give spoilers, but what happens is the villain is a rich guy, a powerful guy who has a lot of thugs with him, who actually wants to kick the homesteaders, the family and some other families away from the land. And during that struggle, Shane supports the family. So Shane has stayed with the family. He's working with the father on the fields, and he helps them to keep, in their effort to keep their land. And here's a nice point. Shane at some point tells them, you won't lose this place. And his word is like a contract. Everyone knows that since Shane told us it's going to be okay, then it's going to be okay. Again, this is another beautiful trait. Saying something and then your word is a contract. You say something and people know it's going to be fine. Another theme is Shane's struggle against himself. Again, Shane has a dark past. We don't know exactly what. But we also know that Shane is literally deadly. He's not just good. He's magnificently efficacious with his gun, but also with his hands. So we see this when he comes into altercations with the men of Fletcher, who is the bad guy. But Shane does not want to enter into these conflicts. When he enters into these conflicts, his biggest fear is not he's not afraid of I might get injured. He's afraid that he's worried that this deadliness inside him that he's been trying to put aside might be unleashed. And actually, I mentioned the gun. For 99.9% of the book, Shane has his gun aside because he says, I don't want to deal with it. He tries to leave all this behind. But it's who he is, that he's a protector, that at some point he might have to go back to his old ways, the ways of the gun. And of course it's for a very good cause. And a last interesting theme is this triangle between Shane, the husband, and the wife, Shane, Joe, and Mariam. Again, it's very difficult not to react to Shane, not to be infatuated with him. But what happens when the woman of the house gets infatuated with him? Is this going to turn romantic? And of course, Shane is a man of character. He will never want to come and ruin a family. So what happens with this dynamic? You will see the answer in the book. And of course, the biggest perhaps theme in the book is the worshipping of Shane by the boy. My introduction to the novel Shane was a lecture by Andrew Bernstein on hero worshipping. And again, remember, the whole novel we see Shane through the eyes of the kid. And it's so beautiful, this healthy hero worshipping of Shane by the boy. Young boys, and not only boys, but young people need to have people to look up to. And it's so good that he has such a model like Shane. So, the end of the day, the question is, how can someone be like Shane? How can someone be at the level of being good at being a man like Shane is? And of course, this is a very high bar, right? He's the fastest and most efficient gun perhaps in the West. But I think the point is not to be lethal like Shane or to be so good at hand-to-hand combat like Shane. The most important takeaway is that at least you appreciate the standards on which Shane operates. The point is that you at least aspire to be more like Shane. And remember, this is not first and foremost a story about Shane. This is first and foremost a story about how the kid views Shane and on what is the effect that Shane has on the family. Remember the line. We've got to be the kind of people Shane thinks we are. So the book is first and foremost about the idealism of looking up to someone and saying, I'm going to do whatever I'm capable of doing to be a bit closer to that ideal. This might mean working hard. This might mean something more like learning to self-defense or whatever. Different contexts, it might be different things. But the important thing is, I appreciate what I see. I appreciate the traits of this man, and I will do my best to get as close to these traits as possible. So, the book is relatively short, again 100 to 200 pages, depending on the edition. If you read it, let me know in the comments what other traits I've missed. And also something important, if you are familiar with other books that portray heroes like Shane, please let me know because I would appreciate to read them. I wish there are more books like Shane. It's the one book which is not written by Ayn Rand that I could easily imagine Shane being a hero in Ayn Rand's novels. Many thanks for your time.